Okay, now on to the sensors. Scuba has added a refinement to the Scubaboo board. Originally, the sensor, instead of having this clip here, used to terminate in just the plug. And for the box, having the wire stick through the side of the case is not a good idea because that leaves an access for water. And I wanted to be able to detach the sensor from the board if need be and what have you. So, you know, it's nice having this coupler on here. The only problem is I don't like the style of coupler. You know, it's built into the sensor. So what I am going to do is, instead of using the coupler, and let's see, get this plugged back in right so I don't get it all mixed up, is I'm going to do one of these. It's a three wire terminal, and I'm going to mount this to the outside of the box like so. That way I can make all my connections for the sensor right there with that terminal. But the problem is the plug needs to be on the inside. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end up snipping the plug off here like that, and stripping the wires back a bit so I have some play in the wiring. I'm not going to use my nippers to bare the wires. I am going to use my lighter if I can find it. My table is a mess as usual. Set the sensor off to the side. And we'll twist the wires so they don't fray. Even if you're not a smoker, having a lighter around comes in handy sometimes. And unfortunately, I'm a smoker. Okay, so what I want to do now, I snipped off the plug, and I've got my 3 wires, and the ends have been bared. And I want to put them through the hole. I got 3 holes here. The left side is going to get the black wire through it. The center hole is going to get the red. And the white one, which is the last wire left, goes through the last remaining hole. And I'm going to need to spread those wires apart a bit more by the look of it. So we'll just go all the way down to the plug. There we go. So I want a lot of play in it at this point. There we go. We got the wires sticking through. Now the next step is to solder the wires onto this piece, which is what will be attached to the outside of the case. And that will take just a couple of seconds. Okay, we got the connector soldered on to the wires. So now it's pretty much permanently attached to the case because there's no way of getting it out without cutting the wires or breaking the solder joints or clipping the plug off. Pull the wires in a little bit, and then instead of putting glue on the back of the terminal, I'm just going to put it around the hole. Top side of the hole, get the bottom side of the hole, and then pull the wires through, seating the connector against that side of the case, and hold it there for a little bit to let the hot glue set up enough to hold it. Okay, once that's done, you can now plug that in, this clip in here, to the board. And there's a 3-prong connector right here at the end of my finger, which you can't really see probably on the camera. There's 3 little wires sticking up to correspond, or 3 little wires to correspond with the wires on the clip. You want the black on the furthest one from you. Just push it on, tuck your wires down, and that connection's made. Now the last thing to do on here as far as assembly is your MP3 player. You gotta get that attached, and that's real simple, real easy. It just pushes into a plug. Now you got 2 different sides to it. You got that side, and then you've got that side, which has the the memory chip in it. You want the memory chip facing the black buttons. So simply line up the pins on the clip and gently push it down till it's all the way seated, and the inside of your board should look like that. Once you get that done, it's done. You're done with it. You can put your lid on. Now, when you go to put your lid on, if the MP3 player is hitting the bottom of the lid and keeping the lid from going on, that usually means the plastic shims that you put in underneath the little pieces of tubing that you put on over the screws that hold the Scubaboo board are too long. The board's sitting up too high, so you'll have to take the board loose, trim that tubing down so the board sits a little bit lower. That way the lid will go on. But for the most part, the case is done. Oh, almost forgot something. On the screw terminals here that you put in for the sensor, this terminal should be should be black, the middle one red, and the far right one white. So write an R, what am I doing? Write a B, an R, and a W. I know, I probably just confused the fuck out of you. So black, red, white, you want B, R, W. That way, years down the line, when you go to hook up your sensor, you'll know that black wire goes to that one, red wire to the center one, and white one to the far outside. But, you know, that's pretty much it. Your board should now look like this all the way around. Then your power hook up here. You get a top view and a bottom view. Okay, for the most part, your board's watertight. And you can set those off to the side. Now, we still got another little project we got to do to finish this up. We're not all the way done yet. Okay, the last step in this progress has to do with the sensor. This is what activates your board, or one of the ways that you can activate your board. After talking with Hall staff and Tim and a couple others in Tech Wednesdays several years ago to find out, you know, how they did their sensors, they came up with this. It's a 2-inch pipe cap with a reducer that slides in and goes down to 3/4 of an inch pipe. And the reason why they're putting it in these housings is to basically 2 reasons: to protect the sensor. One, the sensor, as you can see, just a circuit board with a white dome in it. You don't want this sitting out where water is going to get to it. It will blow it up, rendering it worthless. This, putting it inside this, will keep it waterproof. Also, the beam that this shoots out is fan shaped. It goes 180 degrees. So from side arced to the other side out. And it gives it a lot broader range for picking things up. And in a haunt where you have blowing wind, you know, blowing items, If you want to narrow the field, so someone can actually walk into the room without being picked up like this, this works perfectly. You take the sensor, or actually the reducer first, and put a bead of hot glue around the inside hole, the back of the hole, inside of the hole, however you want to word it, and then just simply stick your dome and your sensor in like that. Now when this sensor trips, as you can see the little half moon in there, it's going to stick to that pattern. Only that much of the beam is going to show, the width of that hole. So when someone trips it, they will be able to get into a room, get near the prop or further away from the prop, depending on how you place the sensor. Then, anyway, so it basically narrows the beam on the sensor is what it does. Then on your cap, you're going to need, and I already went and did it, drill a hole on the back side of the cap so you can put your wire through and then actually close all this up. Now I do it a little bit different. The cable on the sensor is about 2.5 feet long. I like to have my sensors about 8 feet away from the board. That way I can place them in different angles, different situations, depending on how close or far away I want the people to get before whatever the board's activating activates. So what I'm going to end up doing is snipping the wire from the sensor and adding on about 6 feet of more wire, making this whole thing about 8 feet long, roughly. And then I'll feed the wire through the hole, solder up all the connections, and then put it together, which I am going to do right now. Okay, I haven't got the wire added to the cord yet, but I did want to show you. I got the sensor glued to the inside of the cap, and I cut the cord cut, so I've got the other end of it here with the plug on it, and I threaded it through my hole in the cap. Now if you want to do this and just use the length of wire that came with the sensor, you're going to need to drill a big enough hole out to get that plug through. So actually, if you're doing the screw terminals, you don't even need the plug, you just cut the wires, shove them through the hole. But anyway, I could just put this together, pull all the excess wire through, and then hot glue the hole to plug the hole. Problem is you wouldn't be able to get it apart. So you want to make sure you got about 6 inches of wire between the lip of the cup and the lip of the reducer. Once you do have that, you can take some hot glue and just plug the hole with hot glue. That'll help hold the wire into place and seal it so water doesn't get inside either. And then let that dry. And then once it's dry, you can put the two pieces together and you're pretty much done. You hook it up to your board and you're ready to go. There's your sensor all wired up, cords sticking out.